In this Lake Valajärvi, they have found in previous studies some peculiar depressions, round shaped circa 1 meter diameter and half a meter deep. We don't know why they are formed. And the first assumption was that they are upwelling of groundwater was formed those hollows. But after some research we have made here, it seems that that's not the case. 2 years ago we were here taking sediment samples and water samples, and then there was a lot of huge bubbles coming out from the lake, and then we started to think that if it could be methane that is forming those hollows. And now we are just hunting if it's methane. Methane in lakes is connected quite often with anoxia or oxygen depletion. There's a lot of carbon in lake sediment. The carbon storage in lake sediments is in Finland approximately the same that it's in woodlands. And when there's anoxic conditions, then there will be bacteria that prefer anoxic conditions, and those bacteria are producing methane. Mm-hmm. Anoxic conditions, they are quite often depending on the bathymetry of the lake, like the shape of the lake bottom. So in the deep basins, usually in the late summer, and if there has been long ice cover during the winter, in the springtime there will be quite anoxic conditions. Then of course, if there's a lot of nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, good food for living organisms, so that the primary production of the lake will increase in that case. So it's a question of nutrients, bathymetry, and of course the weather. First we took these gas samples from the water column. We took usually 3 depths. So the first was just 1 meter below surface, and then there was like 1 meter up from the bottom, and then 2-3 meters up from the bottom. And then we took methane samples also from ice. So we cut ice and we just vacuumed those ice cubes, and they were then afterwards measured in Lammi Biological Station. We measured oxygen level and temperature also. Temperature usually shows if there is a stratification of the water column, if there is a really place where water is not circulating at all. The next step has been trying to visualize what is happening in the bottom of the lake. If we can find like any gas bubbles that are trapped just below the lower surface of ice.
My main thesis topic is actually the instrument itself, or the usage of ROVs in this kind of investigations. It's like a mini submarine. Basically, it's a tool that can be used in any water, sea or lake and investigate what's happening. In the depths, it's usually connected to a computer with the cable, because there's so much data exchange and possibly on a long range, and of course wireless communication is not that easy underwater. So this is a 10 maybe 15 kilograms ROV by standard. There's a remote controller. The main instruments I would say is the video camera, and then different sensors for depth, temperature, electric conductivity.
First of all there is just a common interest to explain things that we don't know why they exist. There is a local community that are really interested about the ecological, physical and chemical condition of the lake. We have 4 bachelor students here and 1 master student here. This is like thesis topics for those students. But of course, because methane is important gas, it's also the greenhouse gas. So every interaction between atmosphere and carbon storages give us much more understanding about the whole carbon cycle. Well, I don't say that one lake is enough to explain anything. The situation has been really different within these 3 years already. So if you take samples only 1 year, you don't really know what's happening to the next year. But anyway, if we study more different lakes and we study the interaction between carbon storage in lake sediments and atmosphere, then it certainly will increase our knowledge. Usually we can think that lake sediments are sinks for greenhouse gases. For example, if the lake level will change because of the higher evaporation, then the water levels might get lower, and then a lot of shallow areas come again to interaction with atmosphere. Then it might make difference. Lakes are globally covering about 1% of the land area, but in Finland lakes are covering almost 10% of the land area. So in this boreal, formerly glaciated zone, the lakes are quite important.